There's something about him, something has caught my eye.
I think I'm going to answer this question that everybody asks. That everyone wants to know, how in the world did I come up with the story about a little plane involved in a court case? It's kind of an unusual story. And I actually, in 1981, I was walking out on the tarmac. At that time, this particular airline could not use the jetway, and jetways had just been in service for a short while anyway. Anyway, we all had to walk out on the tarmac. And I looked up at the plane and I thought, that is really a cute plane. It's adorable. So I got on the plane and I went on, flew to my destination, but during the flight I pulled out a notepad and I made sketches of this plane that I saw in my mind. And when I got home, I filed it away in my studio, didn't do anything with it immediately. About 2 months later, I ran across it and got it out, and I called the head of marketing for the airline and gave him my name, of course. And he said that he knew me, he knew who I was, that his daughter or his children had one of my books. I'm an artist and a writer. That's what I've been doing for years. And so I said, oh, all right. And he said, well, I told him about the little plane, the sketches I'd made, and he said, well, would you send them to me? And I said, yes, and I made it very clear that I was sending 2 copyrighted sketches to him. And he called me immediately when he received them, and he said, would you fly up? I'd love to meet with you. He said that he had been looking for something like that, and it was just wonderful. He really wanted to talk with me. So the airline flew me up, we sat down and talked, and I think the first thing I did for them was a poster. I think I did a couple of posters for them. And then he flew me back up to have more discussions. And he said, well, he'd been thinking, would I do a book? And he wanted to do a giveaway. And I said, oh, his name was Tom. I said, Tom, I'm really sorry, but I really want to do something of more substance than that, and I don't want to waste time on just a very short story. I said, I really love to do crossover books. Now, for those of you who don't know, a crossover book is a book that appeals to both children and adults. So he said, oh, all right. He said, well, what do you think? What would you like to do? I said, well, let me think about it. Well, he was called out of the room, and he left out of his office. And when he came back in, by the time he came back in, I had picked up a magazine that had the story of this airline and their fight in court to get the right to fly. Very interesting story of theirs. And he said, well, did you think about it? I said, yes, I know exactly what I'm going to do. He said, wow, that was fast. I said, well, I'm going to do the court case where they had to fight for their right to fly. He literally said to me, okay, a court case for children? He looked a little unbelieving, and I said, yes, trust me, it's all right, it'll be fine. So I flew home and spent 2 weeks writing the manuscript and doing some rough sketches for the book. Flew back up and met with him, and he read it through once and he said, oh my gosh, I love this. This is wonderful. He said, I never knew that something like this could be done, with a court case. He was really surprised about that. So then we sent it to the CEO of the company, and the CEO sent back a note, one note, I love it. So we went ahead, and I finished the book, and we had it published. And when it was released, interesting side to the story, we had a huge release party for it, and he had hired people to compose songs and sing them while I read the story. And I would stop at key moments, and then they would sing some lyrics based on my text. And that was a lot of fun, because at the very end, people jumped up and down. They were literally screaming, saying, "Oh, this is fantastic," clapping, and said they just loved it. So the head of marketing and myself, Tom and I, looked at each other. It was kind of like the old Judy Garland, Mickey Rooney time, which you hear about so much, you know, that anyway, we just looked at each other and we said, "Wow, wouldn't it be fun to do a musical based on the book?" So we took the idea again to the CEO, and the CEO said, "Sure, why not? Let's do it." I had a lot of input, which I really appreciated, and flew out for the auditions, which was a lot of fun, choosing the actors and actresses for it. And I designed the little airplane. This is TJ Luv, who's named TJ Luv in the musical, but in the book, I didn't name him. The musical traveled throughout the Southwest and up and down the West Coast, and people loved it. And there's a wonderful story that I love to tell about a woman in Pasadena and her little boy. While I was in the lobby signing books for people, she came up and she asked me if I would sign her little boy's book. I'd say he's about 7 years old. And she said, "I have to tell you what happened." She said, "He told me that he wants to be just like TJ when he grows up." And I said, "Oh, he wants to be a little plane?" I was kidding, of course. And she laughed and she said, "No, what he told me was that he wants to have integrity and give love." And I thought, wow, to have that happen was extraordinary. That's what you dream of as a writer and an artist, that you're going to touch somebody. So it was very important to me. And we had other really nice stories like that about the musical, but people fell in love with it. They loved the character. Well, over the years, I have been asked to bring it back out. And when the internet obviously was up for everybody's use, then the request increased. And I also learned that this airline had had requests for many years for the book. Anyway, I decided, because I do own the rights to it, that I would bring it back out again. And I had thought about it several times, and this year just seemed like the right time, 2014. Now, all of this happened in 1982, so that's about 32 years ago. And it's been a long time, but TJ Luv has had a life of his own, on the internet and in people's hearts, obviously. And so I'm really happy that I got to bring it out again. And a lot of people have loved him, have taken him as their own, which is wonderful. They've embraced him, and they love the book, and I get many requests for it. So I'm hoping that I'm reaching all of those people who've asked for the book, and new people get to know it and love TJ. I still love him.
To be near, it seems to be here around this place.